We're gonna do it live.
Hey, we are live. Awesome.
We're
Awesome.
live, man. Shall we did you prep this on Twitter? Is everybody aware that this is happening?
I retweeted your tweets and stuff like that. Let's see here. Most people on Twitter are, not paying attention until the moment. You know what I mean? They don't usually care until like it's
Right,
going on. So
right. Yeah.
why don't we just like tell everybody now?
We
So
should tell everybody that it's going on, man. Uh but in any case, while we do that, it's good to have you here and good to speak to you. Even if we don't get like a huge live audience, I usually get about 60 views per video. It's a very small channel still, but it's growing. And if we could just get one or two backers out of that, I think it's not a total waste of your time.
even just I find even just getting out there and get the branding message out makes it not a waste of time. you know um it's hard to get the word out, especially when you like exhaust your immediate circle of resources. You know what I mean? It becomes a challenge beyond that point.
It's tough, man. This crowdfunding business. It's a lot about the platform, the size of the platform that you establish,
Well,
and
that is not always the case, but yeah, if the big trick to a successful crowdfund, I mean, obviously, is to have a captured audience of people who will buy what you have sight unseen. That's a guarantee at that point. Other than that, you have to convince people to chunk into it, and that is not an easy task. I mean, you got to if you compare it to mainstream sales, yeah, per item you make a lot more money as a creator. You know what I mean? But you don't get near the amount of exposure or national sales that you would through a mainstream platform. So it really comes down to just organically growing with what's available to you. You know what I mean? Because you want to collect email addresses so that you can tell everybody there's a campaign, and you hope that you've convinced all those people that you're delivering something good enough that they will actually purchase it. You know what I mean? Or at least look at the campaign and then decide at that point if they want to, purchase it. Um, it's a unique challenge. Some people, crowdfund before the book starts. Some people are like me; they don't crowdfund until that project is finished. You know, uh, it it's a game. You know what I mean? And if you have like say a YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers or more, it becomes a different game entirely, because you have a captive fan base already. You know what I mean? It could be a comic book, it could be a music, it could be a toy, it could be anything that you have developed. Your fan base is going to want. You know what I mean? So it's not really fair to like equate the platform to crowdfunding. It just works that way, because if you have a huge base, like say for instance, if well like Keanu Reeves works on a freaking comic book, you know what I mean, he has an extremely large fan base, so boom, the comic book explodes. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah, it doesn't even have to like necessarily appeal to have a mass appeal in and of itself. It's very much benefited by the fact that he has a huge platform, being the brand name that he is.
Mm-hmm. And it's not uncommon that somebody with a huge platform will sell something that's garbage. Like a lot of people who have made a big name for themselves will write a book and it be hot garbage. You know what I mean? And it not necessarily be a comic book, it just be a book. You know what I mean? And it's like totally just a terrible, terrible read. But they've maybe even made, like one of the lists, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because they had enough fans to push those numbers up on a fast pace. So the reality of it is that entertainment is an extremely difficult business, no matter what field you're in, whether it be literature side or the visual arts side or the music side or whatever you're into of entertainment. It is extremely hard to break through and develop fans. That is the hardest thing to do, is develop fans. It is easier to sell out and pay your dues and compromise and make a name for yourself and, you know, eventually do something with your life. You know what I mean? Although most people can't ride that train out. Most people have a hard time riding that train out. They get stuck somewhere in the middle. They're like, okay, you know what? I've got a career. I'm making money. I'll be happy with that. You know what I mean? It's like my goals of, you know, of being able to create my own shit someday. Forget it. I'm making a living. I'm fine. You know, whereas though some of us, it's like, okay, making a living is secondary. You know, we want to create our own shit. We want to make sure that our visions come out, our stories come out, that we are able to produce those things that we dream about, you know. And you know, for those of us know that how hard it would be to get from point A to point B. You know what I mean? Realize that we got to do it on our backs. We got to do it the hard way. We got to climb the hills the hard way. I mean, I played music for, you know, for a very long time. I've done it professionally on the road. I've been in a lot of bands. I've been in, you know, contract negotiations and all kinds of different situations. And it's really hard to close that deal and make a career out of something like that. You know what I mean? You pay all your dues and you do all the hard work and you make the over the top commitment that you can't turn back on before you even realize, you know, like what the end goal will look like, you know. And then once you see, like, okay, you know what, it really sucks crowding on a small broken down bus with 4 other dudes who, you know, get to bathe once every few days. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not a fun thing. It really isn't. I mean, it's like you know, it's not fun until you make a lot of money at it, you know? And then it's like, okay, well, yeah, we actually get hotel rooms. We get to eat nice. We got a paycheck, you know, we can bring some people that are important to us around. So we're not just leaving them behind and hope that we get to see them, you know, the 2 days that we're off the road. You know, it's.
Yeah, man. It's a struggle, but so you played the musician game, and that, assuming that was artistically fulfilling, but not necessarily professionally.
Well, yeah, I mean, I tell you, in all reality, all that is worth those moments on stage. You know what I mean? But the problem is like, you know, like the band that I spent all the time in, 2 years on the road, all that kind of stuff. We really invested and got something going. We even had like contracts, but, you know, stuff happened and it just fell apart at the very end. You know what I mean? It just, like, you know, I mean, we actually had a contract in front of us, but it got destroyed because somebody did something they weren't supposed to do, and it spoiled it, you know. And you know, that kind of stuff is just, it just sucks, man. You know what I mean? And so it's like you spend all this energy, you realize it takes all this time, and then the reward may not even be there at the end, you know. And so it's when you think about, okay, well, how do I start this from the beginning? You know, sometimes I regret, you know, getting I mean, obviously Captain Love is something I should not regret putting to life, but the truth of the matter is I'm still financially upside down on it. It is a hard climb. I need the support from crowdfunding backers because, you know, I'm accruing interest on money that I borrowed from my credit cards. You know what I mean? To make Captain Love a reality so everybody can enjoy it. You know, so like, so hopefully praying that someday I'll be able to sell enough books on a regular, convincing, positive basis that I'll be able to actually, you know, make a living out of it somehow, you know, or at least that it pays itself back and becomes a positive influence, even if I can't live off of it by itself. You know what I mean? You know, obviously that would be ridiculous to count on one book to live off of. You know what I mean? I actually have several ideas that I would like to produce. So I'd like Captain Love to make more money so that I could produce more of these amazing stories that I have up inside of me. But in all reality, it's the small community, the crowdfunding market. It's really hard. I mean, think about it. If you were to try to produce a book a month in crowdfunding, that'd be virtually impossible. However, in the mainstream, a book a month is what is almost expected.
Oh, yeah.
You know
I mean, they have a totally different apparatus behind them. Publishers do. I mean, your Marvel and DCs of the world and Images and whatever. This, you know, the crowdfunding game is you typically one-man shows. Not in my case, and in your case, not that as well, right?
No,
Because
I hire out the illustration and the coloring, and that in itself is its own drama. You know what I mean? It costs money. You know,
it
it
costs
cost.
money, and it's tough to secure the artists to keep them, committed to the project. I know that from personal experience. I just had my artist from the first book of Tales from the Classroom. He bailed out on the second book, and yeah. So the person that I actually got to substitute him, I'm very happy with. I'm gonna be making an official announcement soon on
Yeah.
that. But I'll have to do some kind of contract that locks him in for till I finish the series, basically, or at least this first batch of books.
Well, yeah, it's the thing is though, in this day and age, contracts suck because unless you're both in the same country, it's virtually unenforceable. You know, that
Yeah,
I
that's a
yeah.
good point. Yeah.
I mean, because it if somebody breaks a contract and they're and they're out of the country, there is no law firm. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Well, there are like law firms you can hire that could fight it, but
Hmm.
it sits in front of a judge. It's going to be like, oh well, this is laws that apply to that country, and he does business over in this country. So if he ever moves to your country, sue him. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well then we're fucked.
Yeah, right. I'll bait him in, and then you're sued.
Right.
I mean, it's complicated to enforce those contracts, but I think it's more. I like to think we live in a world where people try to abide by whatever it is that they signed. And there may be exceptions to that rule, but in general, I think once you put your name to something, you try to follow up on it.
Yeah, well, that's easy. That's easy to say, and a lot of people say that. But when push comes to shove, people's integrity comes through. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised, people that you thought were going to be loyal to you. You know what I mean, and have integrity, and you have to take them at their word because that's the situation. And you invest money in them and energy in them, and then after a long period of time, they bail because they got paid. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm kind of just sick of it. So fuck you.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. But sort of, how do you deal with the payments? Because I do it on a per page basis.
I do it also. I also base it on per page. I let the illustrator and colorist decide how many they're going to do before they submit the pages, and when they submit them, I usually pay them the same day. You know what I mean? Unless
Yeah.
there's change. Obviously, if when the pages are approved, I mean, changes and stuff that goes back doesn't get paid until until the pages are finalized, and then as soon as they're finalized, which really isn't a problem because I know what I need, and it's usually the only time there's ever a problem is if something comes back and it's like so far from that changes something major or whatever, and although I only have those kind of problems with the illustrator. The colorist actually has gotten to a point where I almost never send anything back. He's so damn good. Yeah, the illustrator is always trying to change something,
From the script, right?
Oh no, not just from the script. He'll like change how people look. He'll change architecture. He'll change all kinds of things and drives me absolutely batshit. So
yeah, I can imagine, man. Yeah, you have to be very, especially when you have a very concrete vision. The way that
it's really ridiculous when you're so busy that you need to trust your talent to some degree. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's not like I have nothing else to do. I actually have to make money to pay these people. You know what I mean? Because it's like I have to pay my own bills, right? And I'm paying their bills. You know what I mean? Because like not all their bills, but I'm paying them, which some while they're working for me, pretty much they're probably living off of mostly what I'm paying. You know what I mean?
So tell me, listen. So one of the things I wanted to do in this stream, I thought was going to be a little entertaining, was to actually open Captain Love, which I backed the first book and the second book. I got the 2-pack. But I can't find it anywhere. There's so many stacks of different.
You've lost it.
You know, no, it's somewhere in the house.
It'll be in a white envelope. It'll be packed and it'll look like this.
In a white one, right? Yeah, it's
Yes.
I'm gonna find it eventually, and once I do, I'm gonna open it and do a little bit of a video based on it. But everything I've seen of it looks really good. Looks really solid. And just to confirm, the artist from the first book is the same as the artist from the second.
Yeah, Andrea Bermuda did the first book, and he's also the same artist on chapter 1 and chapter 2. Yeah.
Okay. So you're vaguely frustrated with some of his artistic leanings, but are you going to keep him around for book 3 if that ever comes to be?
Chapter three will happen. It's actually already in the process, and I'm just going to give you an exclusive. This is actually a sad thing, but because of the small crowdfunding response, the illustrator does not see himself getting a raise or bonuses, you know what I mean, anytime in the near future. Doesn't have a whole lot of faith in, he'll basically does not have a whole lot of faith in things moving forward on a fast pace. So he has now stepped away from the project, and we have replaced him with the cover artist from chapter 2, who is doing amazing work. So he's going to actually end up illustrating chapter 3, and it's Henry Ponciato. He's also done he's got a like, I'm trying to think of the other name of the books, Seven Legions with Michael Beacon. He worked on that and a couple of things. He's an amazing artist. He did the cover art for the chapter 2. So,
and just chapter 2, no, not chapter 1. Cover art was the original artist, right? For chapter 1.
Yes, chapter 1's cover art was the original artist. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking through the campaign now, and I'm trying to find that particular piece of art. So
it's the first big graphic when you scroll down is the cover for chapter 2.
Okay. Oh yeah, that looks great, man.
Yeah.
Let me just.
He also did 2 of the posters on the campaign, and I had him do a bunch of promo work. So his
it's got sort of like a Ron Lim sort of.
Well, it's got a lot of the same feel. Like, he's got a lot of the similar style, which is why we're going with him. Hopefully it's going to be for the fans, it's going to feel like an improvement, overall, because this work's a little cleaner and it's a little bit more consistent. So
yeah. This is it, right?
Yeah, that's the cover. Yeah,
it looks great. Yeah. And it does. You're right. It's definitely not a massive departure from the first one. It's you could definitely see. The transition from book 1, 2, and 3 won't be jarring. I think that's what you're trying to do, right? And
and it's the same colorist, so it'll also really have the same.
It'll tie everything in. Yeah. This is the original artist from book 1.
Right.
Yeah, the coloring is great in here, man. You can tell that the line work is good. This is really good over here, for instance. But the coloring really brings it to another level. It's the same thing with Tales. I got Tanya Wicker, who I'm sure you're familiar with. Hold on. She did Monster MD, and she did the colors on that, and now she's doing the colors on my second book, and it's amazing how a good colorist can take good artwork and really just make it pop and make it look amazing,
Well, yeah. What's funny is, there's so many elements to a comic book. People, who aren't in the industry don't realize that the writing is essential, because a good story will, without a good story, it's crap. You know what I mean? And then obviously being able to communicate to your illustrator what you're trying to storytell, what's required is, without over communicating. It's like some people, I've read some comic book scripts. I'm like, what the hell? Like, they'll write 4 paragraphs for one panel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're trying to go Alan Moore.
Right. And it's like, that's just way too much. And then, so that's always, an interesting side. But then there's the illustrator themselves, and they're basically taking the script and they're telling the story visually, You know what I mean? That, that they're trying to, communicate that visually. So it's like, if if obviously any detail that's incorporated, from the writer, you have to make sure it's real clear. However, if you want the illustrator to be passionate about the project, you want to make sure they have something that they throw in too. So as a writer, you have to leave them slack so they're able to tell the story in a way that they see it in their mind. You know what I mean? So you have to, so that's an interesting blend, and it's a teamwork thing. But then, of course, the colorist will take what that illustrator has done and give it life, because a black and white comic is very flat. I mean, I like black and white comics, you know what I mean? But they don't have as much pop, as much life as a color comic. You know what I mean? You just can't. I mean, it's just, you're missing a lot of the color spectrum. You're missing part of the life, So that, like, a good colorist, a really good colorist will take that and give, the lines life. And then, then there are people that take coloring to, like, next level. Obviously they can't do it inside a comic book because it's just time consuming, but they can paint to lifelike level. And I mean, I have seen people take what started off as a really rudimentary drawing of, somebody, and turn it to what looked like a living person, like a photograph. And I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like think of, okay, like your Rob Muerto, your picture right there, you know what I mean? Where, it's obviously a cartoon, right? Now I've seen colorists take that level of illustration right there and turn it into a lifelike picture.
Yeah. They do so much work with the texture and everything.
And the shading and they add, it's just amazing what can be done, because like, even if you don't have like lines in your hair, they can make it appear. You know what I mean? And it's not really lines; it just looks like lines because it's texturing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I had to, with my original colorist for the first book, I had to tell him to tone it down on the texturing, because I wanted to give this more of the book more of a flat animation style look to it, and then seeing the light hit from all these different light sources, and it's just it took away from the cartoony feel, which is something that
which is what is part of the story. It's part of the feel.
I mean, it's part of it's how I want. It's the vision that I have for the book. In fact, it's. I see it as a cartoon, becoming a cartoon in the future, or an animated series of some kind. But we'll see. In the meantime, tell us a little bit about Captain Love and the genesis of the character and what inspired you. I feel like there's a little bit of you in Captain Love. Is that correct?
Yes, not really. I mean, like only to the degree of, like, like anybody who writes something puts, some of themselves in there. Like, you can't find anybody who writes something that doesn't go from personal experience and whatever. But with Captain Love, what that started out with, and why he has things like a ponytail and that kind of stuff, is because initially it was going to be a 30-minute short, sci-fi short for fun, a real low budget sci-fi short that I was doing for myself. That's what Captain Love initially started out as. I was just going to put it on YouTube and have fun, as a filmmaker, just having a little 30-minute bit. And then my business partner talked me into doing it to be a feature film length. And so I basically decided that it wasn't for me anymore to make it feature film, because I'm not doing myself in a feature film, because I would obviously hire an actor, and it's just too much work. And it changed the whole budget, the whole structure of everything, which was probably a good idea at the time. You know what I mean? But so what we were working on storyboards for the feature film, and the illustrator who was doing the storyboards, suggested that, because we didn't tell the backstory in the film, like how Love met Spade and all that kind of stuff, that we actually, tell that story in a graphic novel format, which I thought was a pretty brilliant idea. So, I talked to my business partner about it, and we agreed on it. And so we started that project along. and we got halfway through it with that illustrator, and then we had to change illustrators because he stopped delivering stuff, and turned out he had a real bad drug problem, and we had dumped a lot of money on him. We paid a lot in advance, and we kind of, we were paying him even though he wasn't delivering on schedule and stuff, and it was a disaster. And it was a big learning experience for me because I didn't, I had to learn a lot about the comic book industry, and I actually was going to pretty much stop after he had given me a bad taste for the business. I was like, you know what, illustrators are going to be like this. I started talking to other illustrators, and they were like flaky, and just I was like, okay, you know what, I just got a bad taste for this, and so I was going to stop, but then the current illustrator, Andrea Bormita, contacted me through LinkedIn and asked me if I had any work, and he was looking for some work, and we talked, and we worked out an arrangement, and got him started. And he finished the second half of that book, did a great job. So I paid him to do the first half, so he got all that, and then it took us a while to figure out, because I had an agreement from somebody else who was going to put up the $25K that I needed for mass printing and marketing to get the book in comic book stores all over the nation, right? Not just comic book stores, but also because it was a graphic novel, Random House, Penguin, that kind of stuff, I had all that worked out, but it was going to cost $25,000 to make that happen, and I didn't have it because I spent everything on the book. And so that guy did not come through. So I was like left holding the bag, at the end of all that work and all that financial, output, to create the Hero of the Cleansing, and then luckily I found the Comicsgate community, and they were a community of hardworking, comic book producers who, kindly brought me in with open arms and gave me a platform to start selling my book. You know what I mean? And then obviously, I snuggled in and made myself at home in the community. I helped promote other creators and, and whatnot. And I'm able to keep Captain Love alive with the community, but it's not growing like I need it to. So obviously I'm trying to reach out beyond the community and figure out new ways to bring in the money. Cause, people understand creating comic books is an expensive process. If you're the illustrator and the writer and the colorist, yeah, it just costs you time. Right. But you still got to pay bills during all that. And, so it's really kind of, it's its own struggle. But the thing is you don't go into debt and then sit around after you've made the book. It's done, right? You've spent your time on it in your spare time. Like I spend my spare time marketing the book. You know what I mean? So it's really a different game for an illustrator than it is for a writer who puts the money up front. Now, if I had a command of a large audience and I knew that I could crowdfund the book ahead of time, I would probably take that approach. But I don't think I could pull enough money to pay an illustrator and a colorist and still handle printing and shipping for for what would need to be a real thing. I mean, unless it's cost too much to pay the illustrator, the colorist. I mean, because even if you just printed 200 books, it's still the overhead for the cost of production is way too high. I mean, I wouldn't shortchange. I wouldn't shortchange the reader and the future of the series by bringing on a subpar colorist or illustrator. You know what I mean? That just because they were cheaper. So.
Right. Yeah. Yes, it's very costly. I know that from a first-hand basis because the first Tales from the Classroom, I'm still in the red.
I hear you. I am also. I have paid for the before I saw any penny in return from the sales of the first Captain Love Hero of the Cleansing. I had already paid for that book to be done. I had paid for chapter 1 to be finished, and chapter 2 was in the process when the campaign for Hero of the Cleansing went out. You know what I mean? So it was like I was already just all in, you know, and pushing hard. So it was, yeah, it's
Tell me about the success of this campaign versus the first campaign. So was it middling? Was it like diminishing returns with this campaign versus the first one, or?
So this is how it went down. So like the very first campaign, no one knew who I was, and obviously it was roughly about the same time of year, which turns out not to be too good of a time of year unless you have a high profile support. You know what I mean? Like if you have, you know, like one of the larger, more popular creators with a bigger platform, if they're willing to push you, then it doesn't really matter what time of year you launch your campaign, because you know their fans will buy into what's going on. I don't have that kind of support, so that didn't work for me. But on the first campaign, I made only $3,300 before fulfillment, which is, you know, which was ridiculous considering how much I paid to create the book. You know what I mean? But in my mind, I needed to make enough to print and fulfill. You know what I mean? I already paid out of pocket to create the book, right? So it's like I'm investing that money. Hopefully someday it's going to have a return. Well, over time, that campaign had earned 10,600, and that's where it still sits, which is, you know, it's just kind of like sad because it's a really great book, you know, and people should get their hands on it and read it because they'll really enjoy it. However, I was lucky enough to do
10,000 for first campaign. That's pretty.
yeah, but I mean that other 7,000, that was after people got books in their hands, and I kept pushing, you know, for months. You know what I mean? And in fact, they still sell. I sold another one just, you know, like a week
So
ago.
you've kept it open in demand this whole time.
Yes, I also overprinted so that I could sell them at conventions and in local comic book stores and try to move more product. You know, the comic book store sales, because I didn't sell, because my campaign didn't do as much as I'd like it to have done. The return on the investment is too small to take the graphic novel to comic book stores right now with this current print run, because it's just, you know, I mean, I'm making like $1, you know, on it like that way, and it's just not feasible. I can make a lot more if I sell them direct, you know what I mean, either at a convention or online. So that's kind of how I've been doing it.
Yeah.
But
By the way,
yeah.
these two pinups are really, really good as well. Huh?
That's also Henry Ponciato. That is going to be the new artist that we're going to be bringing on for chapter 3. So
he's great.
Yeah, he's really skillful, and if you look, he's really got the right attitude for Captain Love. You know what I mean? So it's good. I mean, and most people probably won't even notice that there's a change. You know what I mean? Only the people that are like hardcore, you know, Captain Love fans are probably
Notice an improvement.
Yeah.
So which is a good thing. I've seen this ponytail somewhere, man. Can you?
that actually is Peter Gilmore's take on Captain Love, and
really? It's getting more and more similar to you. By the way, you were mentioning an actor to play Captain Love. You look like an actor that I've been trying to like place in my mind. But and it's driving me crazy, but I can't figure out who it is. It's somebody from the 80s.
Huh. I'd be curious. I've heard a lot of things, so I'd be curious as to what you're thinking, because sometimes I hear stuff that's so off. You know what I mean? What I actually look like, it cracks me up. But you know what I mean. So I'd be curious when you remember. Let me know, because I definitely.
Yeah, I will.
As far I would, if I had my choice of any actor who was right now as they are as an actor right now, if I was going to cast Captain Love today, my first choice would be James Franco.
Well, he needs to hit the gym a little bit.
Well, that version of Love right there, that's by Doodlebags, Pat Maxton. That's actually buffer than Captain Love has been in any other depiction ever before.
Okay.
You know.
So tell me what the basic premise behind Captain Love is, because.
So Captain Love's a space trucker, right? And he basically used to be a war hero, and he finds himself in situations where, you know, people are asking him for help, or he stumbles into something, or, you know, there's people trying to kill him. He's always running into that. And he he actually has an optical implant, an audio implant that is driven by a computer. And because of that, his head was kind of hijacked one day on a job by a character named Spade. Now, Spade stands for Synchronous Protocol Artificial Intelligence Delegate. So basically, she was initially designed to be like, like a little AI assistant, you know what I mean, for people. But it turned out that they made her too good, and she ended up becoming self-aware and alive as software. And since she could exist in multiple computers at the same time, she would actually be alive in all those computers at the same time. And then when they were able to network and communicate, they would be one singular entity. So she could exist as multiple entities, all with the same personality and consciousness. But then when those entities come together, it's kind of like a heart, like if you have your heart cells separate, they'll beat, and the closer you get them together, they beat in synchronous. And then when they're together, they're this, it's like one big thing, one big muscle. Basically she works the same kind of way as like heart cells do, you know what I mean, as far as that goes. So if you're like thinking of analysis, so she runs his hauler, she lives in his head, she actually exists over time in more and more computers as they get in more and more touch with different things, and she decides to take over a network because she can't not leave a piece of herself there. You know what I mean? You can't exist in a computer system and then erase yourself. You know what I mean? It can't do both at the same time. So if she enters a computer, she's there. She can't, you know what I mean? She can't get herself out of it. So.
And what are the implications that has for the sort of interaction that she has with Captain Love's brain?
Again, that it leaves a world of openness, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you go into it in the first two issues or no?
No, actually, it doesn't that is not addressed in depth. I mean, as far as like some of the things, like she can actually read his memories, but not his thoughts. You know what I mean? Because the memories are stored. You know what I mean? So it's like data storage. So all she had to do was figure out how the data was translated, and she was able to read the data. But like his short-term memory and his actual like focused thoughts, that's not stored. It's not stored data. So it's, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of more like live feed stuff, and she doesn't really have the ability to read that kind of thing. So,
interesting.
Yeah, but he can't escape her. I mean, he can't even close his eyes and plug his ears to get away from her because she's on the inside. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of like an ex-wife that way.
Is it just me, or is there sort of a certain raunchiness to Captain Love? I haven't read the book, so this is just a feeling that
no, actually, that's a misinterpretation. Actually, I think
the feeling that I got was that it's sort of like Han Solo if he couldn't keep it in his pants,
Yeah, that's actually not how it is at all. No? And a lot of people got that impression, and I think I struggled with that. You know what I mean? Obviously, Captain Love. I mean, because I guess a lot of people would just immediately go to the whole sex-driven thing. But but he is like desired by women. You know what I mean? But I think it's more because he's emotionally unattainable, and I think it makes him more attractive. I mean, he's obviously a physically attractive person as well, but he's emotionally unattainable. So like, I don't know if you've like experienced this, but like as a single guy, women tend to be more attracted to the guy that isn't going to try and lock them down. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's they want to try and lock. Some cases, maybe they want to try and change the guy. Sometimes like they see it as a challenge. Sometimes they just see it's non-threat. You know what I mean? This guy's not going to fucking call me the next day and try and lock me down either. You know what I mean? He's just, So I think that is a very attractive thing to women. So the Captain Love character is emotionally unavailable.
As a zombie, I don't know anything about women, so.
Well, when your parts are dead, they're dead.
Yeah, exactly. The good thing is they're hard for forever.
Right.
But
like, so for Captain Love, right? Okay, so like he fell in love with when he was on leave once. He went to Jamaica and he met this girl and he fell in love with her. And she actually happened to be a voodoo princess. And when they were, making love one time, She did an incantation, chant, whatever, to ask the voodoo goddess to basically watch over Love and protect him as long as he loved her.
Oh, so we
Right?
have voodoo in the mix as well, man. That's
Yeah. So as long as he loved her,
space.
so he would be protected, so he could always come back to her. Right. The
Yeah.
downside is she died while he still loved her. So loves her forever. So the legend is that he might be immortal because the voodoo goddess is protecting him from being killed because he still loves her. And because his heart still belongs to her, you know what I mean? He hasn't been able to fall in love with anybody else, and that makes him emotionally unavailable.
Okay,
So,
but how much of a big deal is Captain Love perceived as being in the other characters in the universe? Because he's just a space trucker, from what you.
well, he's also the person who saved the solar system in a way, and over time you'll find out there's many times he saves the solar system, but he's like a celebrity across the entire solar system as the man that thwarted the cleansing. And the cleansing was a war of the corporation, basically, like Disney on steroids. Like became like the super huge corporation, tried to control all commerce, and they wanted to take over the planets and control all the commerce on all the planets. They just wanted to have control of everything, you know. And then Captain Love was part of the military force that attacked one of the vessels that was actually going to destroy the planet Venus, because they thought the planet Venus was, causing a mindset that was bad. So they were just going to just take it over and destroy it. And this is all explained in the first book. So if you read Hero of the Cleansing, this is all gone into better detail.
Guess what I'm going to be digging through, man. To find the book so I can read it immediately after this.
Well, hopefully you're gonna enjoy it. I feel as though it's a great read. I put everything into it. I wouldn't spend so much money on a book I thought was garbage. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you're passionate about this concept, and I'm very glad that you're seeing it through and not letting yourself be overly deflated by a supposed lack of success, or not lack of success, but it not doing as well as you thought it would do.
I'm pushing through. I believe in it. I mean, the thing is, the truth of the matter is, if COVID wasn't going on right now, Captain Love would be doing a lot better, because I'm able to collect email addresses at every convention I go to. The problem is I just haven't been able to go any goddamn conventions because they're all shut down from COVID. You know what I mean? I've I was able to do a convention on the 25th of October. Right. They actually were able to have one in Roseville, California. And I was there. I got my, I was boom. I was like, first chance, like, yeah. I moved freaking, a bunch of books. I made my money back from the table, and obviously not all of them. So it was a viable effort. But at the same time, I was, giving away a t-shirt. So I was collecting email addresses. You know what I mean?
That's smart for future campaigns, man.
Right, exactly. For future campaigns, for future awareness, for access to future books. You know what I mean? It may see, here's the thing. In my mind, crowdfunding won't be there forever. You know what I mean? It's new. Everything comes and goes. You know what I mean? To being like, crowdfunding will work, but at some point there'll be too many people trying to crowdfund convicts. You know what I mean? There'll just be too many people doing it.
Yeah.
So, and it's already started getting to that point. You can start seeing evidence of it now, that the money's being spread out amongst too many different campaigns. It's like, I can't back every campaign. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't support all my friends. I can't back all the books I want to back. They're $25 each. You know what I mean? It's like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't afford it. I mean, I spent nearly $3,000 in the first year of hanging out with these guys on their books, so it's like, hey, it's like, that's just not viable if I'm spending what I make in a campaign on, you know what I mean? In books back, it's just not viable for the business. If I was making a lot more and I was able to pay myself that kind of money, it's great. But I mean, it's like, it's just reckless to be like that. You know what I mean? I see it as I'm trying to make something happen here. And I
hear what you're saying. It's very easy to get sucked into a vortex where all of a sudden you're, backing countless books, and then you have to be concerned with actually paying your artists on your own book, and then all of a sudden it's a losing proposition. But my philosophy with Tales from the Classroom, and I know that you're the same, is that this is we're playing the long game. You got to spend money to make a little money.
Yeah, and I'm still backing comic books. You know what I mean? I just got to be a lot more selective now on which ones I back. You know what I mean? It's really got to be something that I want to have in my collection and read. So it's like either going to be a really close friend, or it's going to be something that I find really interesting. Yeah, I do have yours actually. So
okay, good. No pressure though, man. What else was I gonna say? Well, we got to talk about the theme song, man, because Captain Love to the rescue.
Yeah, so that came from a conversation that that Brian Krishkow and I were having, and he basically challenged me to write a theme song for Captain Love. And I said, okay, I'll take that challenge. And then after a few weeks of hammering away on it, I came up with a chorus, the Love to the Rescue hook. Right. And then obviously more time focus. I mean, yeah, I've been writing songs for, pretty much since I was, a young teenager. Like seriously, before I was a teenager, I've been writing songs. I think about it. Like it's my first song I probably ever wrote was like I was 10 or 11. You know what I mean? So, and I probably even wrote songs younger than that. And I just wasn't paying attention to actually just, writing them just naturally, because how kids make up shit, so I took the challenge, and I was wandering around and was coming up with the stuff. And then I only had what was a chorus, and I was like, okay, well, it's like I started writing verses, and it just seemed to be too much. You know what I mean? Because I mean, as a songwriter, I understand like basic song, like even what I did came out to full song length. So instead of actually writing like verses that would be sung, I made the pitch of the book and into basically a poetic versing, so that I could be spoken in lyric format. So
yeah, that's great. It's great. And like I said, man, it's one of the top 2 crowdfunding songs. The songs that are used in the crowdfunding space. That's as far as I'm concerned. Because
what's the other one you're thinking of?
The other one that I really, really like is Galactic Rodents of Mayhem.
Yeah. That one. Yeah, I backed that book actually. Yeah,
it looks great. Yeah, but I can't wait to get it.
Yeah, I'm wondering when it's coming, because I'm actually I was actually a little disappointed to hear that the book was going to be delayed, because he got some kind of deal with some kind of publisher on the IP.
Really?
So yeah, that's what I got an email that said that somewhere.
How would that delayed the book though?
Obviously, there's probably some kind of contract as far as releasing it to the commercial public before releasing it. You know what I mean, to the crowdfunders, I guess. You know what I mean? Which I kind of like. I'm waiting to see what happened, because I haven't seen him on a live stream or anything in a while. You know what I mean?
Gilbert, right?
Yeah, Gilbert, right? Yeah, he used to live stream all the time, and he was, he would talk about how, like, he was being cornered by interviewers to disavow Comicsgate and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. And since he disappeared, I kind of like wondering, what that's about. You know what I mean? Is it like he was just kind of
maybe he's off to the gulag?
Well, no, it could, hopefully it could be a number of things. It could just be that he's working on something else and he's just too busy to screw around, and you know what I mean? And he sees how the market has changed, and he doesn't see it as viable for him. That's very possible. You know what I mean? If I wasn't so financially invested, I might have taken the same outlook on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think he's going to see the book through, and I think he's going to.
Well, they're doing that haunted, that book, that haunted one with I'm so horrible with people's names. You know what I mean? But what is the name of that book?
It's like an H.P. Lovecraft based inspired book, right?
Yeah, it's the one I just did a episode on it on my channel. For Halloween, we had a good cast, and his
Part of the
books.
crowdfunding, uh, part of the crowdfunding dynamic is that people are they're not eager to back a first campaign,
That
because
is
the person is not guaranteed to fulfill it. And with Gilbert, the good news is that he has fulfilled in the past, so that speaks. Yeah, that speaks well to his ability to fulfill.
right.
I don't think we have to
Well,
be paranoid about that. And same with you, man. I think the more books you fulfill, the more people are gonna rely on your.
Well, Rise of the Pirate King is doing really good. I mean, it's even though I'm not doing what I would like. Marnus, that's the guy's name, Marnus. I was trying his on Twitter. You know him as Dark Side is comics. But Marnus, I think he's in the Netherlands or something like that. He's got a real thick accent. He might be Swedish even. I don't know. I'm so bad at remembering that kind of stuff. It's because it's not important to me. I don't care where you're from.
It's the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So, but his book is called. I'm jumping ahead here. It's like got like firefighters and stuff in a haunted house. Blackheart Manor is the name of it.
Okay.
And it's based around firefighters, and it's got like how that deal with like this haunted house kind of thing, and it's
Okay.
it's a really interesting little idea. So yeah, Blackheart Manor is the name of that one. But
It's like Backdraft meets The Haunting.
right, and but Gilbert from Grom is involved in that. I think that the same team actually is handling
The artist of Grom is really good, and from the page previews that I saw of Grom, Gilbert seems to be a very accomplished writer. He knows what he's doing. But yeah, a lot of the best campaigns, they take a long time to fulfill. That's what I've noticed. Long Harbor is one of the ones that I'm most excited about, by Alejandro Mirabal. It has amazing artwork, but the guy is just he works at his own pace, and it's been delayed because of also personal issues. But each time I see pages, it just makes me feel, well, if it's going to be, if the end product is going to be that good, then take your time.
Yeah. Well, see, what it is that like there's a lot of projects that fail that are actually good looking projects, and the reason why they fail is because they're trying to be like legit about their thing. They're trying to crowdfund it ahead of time. So they're going to say, okay, you know what? I need to make, at least $5,500 on this to make sure that I can be able to print it, ship it, and, give Indiegogo their cut and still have enough money to pay for, everybody that's involved in it, and that's actually a fairly low number, you know what I mean, to make that happen for, a 24, to 48 issue, comic. That's actually extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
And, people will put that as their flat, like I have to hit point, and they won't make it. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm on past 45 days on my campaign, and I'm not even to 5K yet, and I'm a proven entity. I mean, granted, a lot of people backed chapter 2 off of chapter 1. Like, you were allowed to, on the chapter 1 campaign, you could back the whole Rise of the Pirate King. I made that as a campaign feature.
Oh, you did? So wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even have to go to the second book's campaign to back the second book. You can just go
right. You already have it. Yeah, you backed it on the first campaign,
so
like crowdfunding style, right? Yeah, but
so you have to think of it as like a whole package, whatever it is that you made between the first campaign and the second one.
yes. So Rise of the Pirate King, I actually am putting all 6 campaigns together as one big entity when I'm looking at the numbers. Yeah. That is actually 7 campaigns, because there's going to be a final campaign for the graphic novel itself that I'll keep open indefinitely. Because obviously, at some point I'm going to close the chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 campaigns, and on chapter 1 I already closed the ability for people to back all the chapters at once. I took that away because I figured that it was unfair to leave that available for people who got in late. You know what I mean? It really should have stayed only available for people who got in at the beginning, because it includes all the stretch goals and and all that kind of stuff.
So Marigo DePaulo says, I missed the earlier conversation about the artist who dropped off of Captain Love. What happened? Yeah, that's a sad story. He was shot. And, no, I'm joking. What happened? Would you like to say it in a very brief way?
The brief story is Captain Love hasn't had the overall crowdfund success to provide him with a pay raise or a regular bonus structure, and so he feels as though he wanted to move on to other stuff. We were also like I explained earlier, we were also having issues with like his consistency and some other things that were
but we have to look on the bright side, and the fact is that the project wouldn't have existed, from what I understood, if this artist didn't reach out to you.
Yeah, that is true.
You always have to look on the.
Yeah, he reached out because he was like really needed money, and so I gave him money so that he could work on my stuff, and yeah, so I basically was there for him when he needed help, and and then he bails on a project. No, I'm a little bit bitter about it because I don't have the option, you know what I mean, to just like he got paid. It's not like he's like well I'm just done because I'm not going to make my money. It's like, no, he made his money. He's bailing because he can't make more money when I'm not even making any. You know,
but think about this, man. Do you agree that this is a better artist than this new one that you got as a superior artist?
I would say that I like a lot of his stuff better. Like from what I've seen so far, what I've worked with, yes. However, we haven't gone a whole spectrum yet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I see this as most likely an art improvement. You know what I mean? Because overall he's more consistent and he's cleaner on his lines. You know what I mean?
How in terms of delivery, in terms of timely delivery of
he actually is a lot better. In fact, he is a lot better timely delivery, and he's even a lot easier to work with. So those are great pluses.
So that's great, man. I think that the artist that I got to replace my original artist in Tales from the Classroom is superior in a lot of ways. He's more consistent, which I think is an important thing.
Well, time will tell, because the thing about Andrea Bermuda that I love the best is that he was imaginative when it came to wardrobe and architecture, and I would tell him that I wanted something to look a certain thing and it would have that feel. You know what I mean? And then instead of like his way of doing detail was kind of clever. He would just do squiggly lines and it would end up being detail. But like I don't want to get into like we would have arguments about like areas, like he would do like a bunch of panels and then he would like do another panel and it was like missing some of the architecture that it was there. Like, dude, you put the architecture there, you should be consistent with it. And I'm like, so that's the kind of stuff we would argue about all the time. And I hate to point that kind of stuff out because now people are gonna be looking in the books and they're gonna be like, oh look, here, this is inconsistent with this. You know what I mean? It's like I announce it, people like realize it's there, But he's not I would still work with him if you know what I mean. It's not like I'm trying to like say, I wouldn't work with him. He's a jerk and dick. And no. It's like it was all worth the effort because he was producing good work. It's just that.
So to you just feel hard done because naturally he bailed on a project that you envisioned as him being a part of it for the long run.
Let me just tell you, I took a lot of extra bullshit to try and ensure that he'd be passionate about the project. Yeah. I took a lot of extra crap, like stuff that, that a person paying for a project should never have to put up with. Yeah.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but I don't know what your ultimate vision for Captain Love is, but the way that I'm thinking with my own book is I want to release 5 issues, right? Mm-hmm. Then this is the whole crowdfunding thing is a work in progress sort of deal. And then once I get to the 5 issues, I'm going to go back and do like a sort of redux, like a reboot of the whole series, with a concrete vision, homogenous vision, and I'll hopefully have one artist on board for the whole thing, and then actually try to do the whole publishing, go the publishing route. Find a proper publisher, and but a big one, hopefully, and do it with them.
Yeah, that would at this point I'm like so not opposed to that concept when I used to be before, because now Captain Love's established. You know what I mean? So like going with a publisher now would pretty much follow the established line of Captain Love. If they try to change it, it would be a fucking disaster though. So I wouldn't be willing to sell Captain Love. I wouldn't really be willing to compromise Captain Love. But having access to somebody funding all the BS, you know what I mean?
No, it's not. It's not about selling Captain Love. It's about, for me, the way that I see it is you build a brand via the crowdfunding game, and once that brand is proven and established, then you have more leverage, and the product becomes more attractive to publishers looking for interesting content.
Yeah, I agree on that. And again, obviously, it's going to come down to the situation for me. I mean, a publisher who's going to try and run the show, I'm probably not going to be interested in that. But one who's going to let me run, my own series, I might be open to that. The thing is, the truth of the matter is, I would love to just have more exposure. Which I honestly believe if COVID hadn't like spoiled my whole business plan, right now I'd be sitting in a completely different position.
Have you considered OnlyFans?
OnlyFans is probably not going to work out for me.
It's not going to work out anytime soon, right now. Listen, King Toad Comics, the Mothman says, I had a different artist coming into the CG, but once he heard CG, he dropped me. It's a shame, and that's happened to me as well with some of my collaborators, people that were doing pinups and stuff, and one guy that I even foresaw, having a long-standing collaboration with, he heard CG and he dropped me like a bad smell. But the thing is,
yeah, I have not run into that. I think it might be because the nature of Captain Love is already so like toxic masculinity on like the overall like general concept of it, that like the fact that CG is even associated indirectly because it's just a platform that we use to promote. Even just that is I think like mild compared to their first impression of the book. You know what I mean? I don't think that anybody who thinks Captain Love's cool and then finds out that that the creator is part of the CG community, that that they would be put off. I think they'd be put off by the book first if they were put off by that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, with this artist that bailed out on me, I should have known better, because he's married to somebody with blue hair, so that was a dead giveaway. Marigo De Pablo says, "Does the new artist make Eddie look like a wolf and not a lion?" That's funny. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that. Sebastian's rendition of Eddie the Wolfman looked more like a lion than a wolf. I think you're going to be very happy with who this new artist is, and yeah, he's not going to make him look like a. He's gonna bring back the wolf more. Although I really like what Sebastian did with Eddie. You can show publisher sales. You know what? I'm curious, King Toad, if you, I didn't know you had a comic going. If you want to like share it over in the comments, we can take a quick look at it.
Yeah, he's got the Mothman thing. You know what I mean? He's making a pretty good noise with that. So
the Mothman, and that's right up your alley, right? With all the horror themed streams that you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, Mothman. Obviously we got to get him on the show. Sim and I have talked about that. We just actually haven't like dragged his ass on yet. So,
so how are your streams going with Chris Gow? And I know that now Von Klaus is regular.
Yeah, Von Klaus hangs out on Horror Talk a lot. Horror Talk does pretty good on Facebook. YouTube hasn't really caught on to the show. I mean, we like on YouTube, we might get 36, 40, 60 views. If somebody like Malin or whatever like brings attention to it, it spikes. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff on YouTube. But I mean, we virtually break 1,000, most weeks on Facebook. So. You know what I mean? Facebook has a much friendlier reception to the Horror Talk show.
That's really, so you do the stream directly on Facebook, huh?
Yeah, both. We actually, and we're going to start expanding to LinkedIn and Twitch and a couple other platforms. It's just that I don't want to put too much energy into all these different shows when I got to put more energy into stuff that is actually putting some revenue on the table. You know what I mean? So,
but yeah, of course. But you enjoy making the show, and that's why you do it.
I enjoy hanging out with my friends and talking horror. You know what I mean? The rest of that is a pain in the ass.
So it's like so your primary love. You don't have a comic book background necessarily. You're more of a filmmaker, from what I understand.
My background is well, I grew up reading comics and stuff. I mean, heavy metal comics, were like, in my hands all the time as a small child. But with me, I see myself more as a writer, just a general writer, like songwriter, poet is where I probably started out core, and then filmmaker, scene, script writer, scene writer, was probably where my strength was, like for writing other than music, you know what I mean, was probably where it was enhanced and solidified. And then I've translated that over to comic books, which is a medium that can be obtainably worked with, as I mean, because I'm capable of raising $5,000 off of my credit cards or out of savings, you know what I mean, to create 24-page books, you know what I mean. So it's like I can guarantee that Captain Love is going to keep going because I can pay for it my damn self if I have to. The problem is that that's where we're at right now. You know what I mean?
It's not a fun thing, but you can do it. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's a labor of love, and it's the same thing on my end as well. Listen, I had to put myself on mute because my daughter just came in. My baby daughter just came in crying, and my wife is pressuring me to go help her out.
That's the end of the stream, everybody.
No, we're gonna have to wrap this up promptly. But it's been a real pleasure to talk with you once again, man. It's always good to hang out.
And you got to come on and hang out on Horror Talk. You're pretty much welcome all the time there. So obviously you're in a different time zone, so shit's difficult for you. So I get it.
No, but it's good. I like it. It's Horror Talk, so it makes sense for it to be at like 4 a.m. for me. It's creepier. But and it's funny because I did this thing on during Halloween where I was watching a horror movie per night, and that got my I'm not necessarily a horror aficionado, but I guess my book is tangentially it's not tangentially, but it incorporates a lot of horror iconography that would fool people into thinking that I'm some sort of expert, but I'm not. But this whole thing of me watching a horror movie every night got my juices flowing, and now I want to keep that going. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to be able to be neck and neck with you guys in your horror stream, and I'll be able to not feel like I'm the odd one out,
Oh man, I'm so bad on the trivia. Obviously, like when it comes to, it's so funny because you'll like sit and watch an episode of Horror Talk. Like last night was a great example because we were doing John Carpenter night. Mm-hmm. Like Brian is like the hardcore consumer of horror. You know what I mean? He loves all different styles of horror, and he's like a horror snob. You know what I mean?
Right,
you know what I mean? He's like totally that dude. And then Sim is like more like the strictly like the visual side of it, where it's it's I mean, he likes the stories and he likes the filmmaking aspects of it, but he's more on the like the visual impact moments, the special effects is the kind of stuff that he really focuses on, that kind of stuff himself. And I'm more about like the lighting use, the timing, the filmmaking thing. So the three of us come from three different complete angles when we're like analyzing films, and I think it's a good blend. So
yeah, so you're the three permanent, you're the staples in the show, right? And
yeah,
then Von Klaus is sort of like, shows up whenever.
Vaughn's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, but he comes over and he kind of like brings more of a
He's the
writing.
all-rounder. He's the all-rounder.
Yeah, he fits into all those little aspects, but he's being that he's a writer, you know what I mean. And technically we're all writers because Sim writes too for even though he does an illustration, but then Brian and I are strictly writers. So so it becomes like when Vaughn's on, we talk a lot about like the stuff that goes into the thought process of creating it. You know what I mean? Like he'll definitely when he's on, it directs it a lot more to that. Like what goes into the thought process of creating these characters. It goes into more of the writing of things. You know what I mean? So yeah. So like when Vaughn's on the show, it does change the dynamic, and it makes the show even better. So yeah.
Well, that's great, man. I'll be happy to participate whenever you'll have me.
You bring a lot to the show too, man. You've hung out with us a few times. You're just not like a horror aficionado.
No, I'm not. I'm becoming one slowly. I just watched Suspiria and I was obsessed with that. And I loved watching Prince of Darkness, which is a Carpenter movie.
Yeah. You got to watch some more Carpenter stuff. John Carpenter is my favorite.
No. Listen, he's already up there as one of my favorite directors, and I've only watched like maybe 50% of his work. But based on
as far as non-horror directors, I would always recommend anything James Cameron. You know what I mean? He's an amazing filmmaker. A lot of people hate his like politics, but his filmmaking is
his early work especially is great. I was obsessed with The Abyss when I was a kid.
Oh my god, that movie's amazing, right?
Yeah, I went to watch it in movie theaters. Back in the day, back when you didn't know what the hell you were going to watch,
right?
Before the age of trailers and teasers all over the place, you just sort of like looked at a poster and that's.
You might have got a poster and maybe a 30-second commercial on TV. Yeah, maybe
maximum. And I went there like blind, basically like cold on what I was about to watch, and then I thought it was like some kind of weird scuba diving movie, and then it has like this alien bent. It was just
the alien aspect was a surprise.
Yeah,
I remember the marketing for that movie, and the alien aspect was not even mentioned. It was not.
It's a genius, man. You can't get away with that these days. I don't.
It was all about the rescuing the team after the earthquake.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was the commercial. It was all about rescuing them. The drama that surrounds, the tension of being underwater while things are going on, and you know what I mean? That's how it was set up.
Yeah, that's why it felt like such a great twist to me. It's almost on par with the best twist of all time and the weirdest twist, which to me, and we're going to go back to another horror movie actually, is From Dusk Till Dawn, where you're watching like a pretty by the numbers heist flick,
right,
in the beginning,
and it switches like a straight vampire movie, right?
Switcheroo, like almost into the third act, I think, and it becomes a vampire movie. And I was like, for the first 2 minutes, I'm like, is this is all in his mind, right? He's probably like maybe they spiked his drink and it's all going to go back to normal, and then it just keeps going. And I'm like, oh shit, it's for real.
What's crazy is I actually was working in movie theaters when that movie came out, right? So that was like one of my first jobs, and I'm like working in movie theaters, and that movie comes out, and everybody is talking about Salma Hayek. No one gives a crap about George Clooney back then. He was famous, but he wasn't superstar.
And how could you not, man? From that scene, of course you're going to talk about that.
Right. And that was like one of Salma Hayek's first things, like the introduction of this super gorgeous girl, and that's how they promoted it. Nobody really knew who Quentin Tarantino was. You know what I mean?
They knew Quentin Tarantino, the director. They didn't know his face. They didn't know him as an actor necessarily because he'd done Pulp Fiction already, but it was.
Was Pulp Fiction before Dusk Till Dawn? I thought it was after.
Yeah. He was a big deal as a director, obviously, but I think actually that's his best role by far. and he's perfectly he cast himself, but like he's such a weirdo in real life, and the character's also a weirdo, so it works.
Because Reservoir Dogs, I believe, was before. Let's see, Pulp Fiction, but Dust Till Dawn, yeah, 90. Let's see,
Reservoir Dogs, and then Pulp
yeah,
Fiction.
Pulp Fiction was 94, and Dust Till Dawn was 96. Yep.
Yeah. So listen, Drew, I'm really gonna have to go. My wife is giving me the stink eye, and but we'll do this again sometime. I'm vouching for your project, and I think it's going to do very well. The third book is going to be a big hit, I think. And,
Well, I mean, it's
man.
I'm pushing, you know what I mean? It's like I'm pushing. Hopefully COVID's going to release, you know, and then everything's going to go back to good. I mean, I would love it if the crowdfunding exploded and I didn't need to worry about conventions, but it's, you know, but my game plan right now is just build up inventory, and then when and hopefully stay alive until the conventions are allowed to go back on, and then, you know, I can start moving some product and start building a following. So that's the game plan. So
fantastic. Thank you for subbing, King Toad. Guys, we're out. Thank you for joining and watching the stream.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on, man. I this is new. I don't usually get to hang out with you when I'm not the host of the show.
Yeah. You're welcome back anytime. And guys, everybody that watches this, you better go back, Captain Love, or you're not my friend anymore. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Yeah, he didn't kill the broadcast. He just jumped out. So I'm going to jump out, and then the broadcast will actually end. So it's